because today we are kicking off a brand new series. And if you have your Bibles, go ahead and turn to James chapter 4. Yeah, he just talks about everything. All right, so James chapter 4, I'm not even joking, verse 13 through 17. And I didn't talk about this during the series, so this is just kind of an added bonus. So James chapter 4, verse 13 starts off with this. It says, "Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow, we will go into such and such town and spend a year there and trade and make a profit, yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and we will do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin." What James is talking about is what he's not talking about is he's not saying it's bad to have plans. It's not bad to go on vacations. It's not planned to try to figure out what life's going to be like. What is happening in this moment is that the people here are living life without Jesus. They're arrogant in how they're living, thinking that they have tomorrow, so they're just going to do whatever is going to happen because it's going to be there. But what James says, he says, you don't know if you're promised tomorrow. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what's going to happen today. And so instead of saying, this is what I want to do, this is how I want to live, these are the things that I'm going to do, instead what you should say, Lord, is this your will for my life? Is this what you're wanting me to do? Is this how you want me to live? And he says that our life is like a mist, like it's here for a moment and then it's gone. And so what are we doing with our life? We're in a series, we're starting this today called Ruthless. And what this is it comes from this idea, it actually comes from a book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And something that we've noticed, and not just in everybody here, but this is something we've noticed in our lives. And so I just want to be able to say from the very beginning, this is a hard message for me to preach because I'm still figuring some of these things out myself. I'm up here. These are things that Jesus is speaking to me as well. I in no way have it all figured out. I know you look at me and say, no, Andrew, you have it all put together. You're so good. I don't have it put together at all. And I'm still trying to figure this out myself. But what we're noticing in our lives and in some of your guys' lives as well is that there's a lot of busyness. There's a lot of hurry. And we just pile on so many of these things that we forget to take care of the most important things. And so to be able to say, I want to eliminate hurry from my life, because you can't be a person that is experiencing peace when you're rushed. All right, they just don't go hand in hand. I remember just growing up, going to church, there'd be mornings that were really, really difficult where it took forever for us to get out, and we're in the car, we're crying, and my mom just turns and looks at us and says, wipe away your tears, we're going to church, and everything. And then we get there, and we just get like the glares as we're walking in, and then we come in like, hi, it's the Wingos, like everything's all great and dandy. Now, as a parent now, I know how hard that is as well. And so just how many people have ever felt that way? Like where you're like, I need to have all my stuff together as I'm walking into church, or I need to be able to put on this persona. I need to look all these great, but you're in this hurry, you're in this rush because things are just not going the way that you planned because you overbook or you don't do the things you know you're supposed to be doing, the right things and all those things. And so you just allow your life to get away from you. And if you're not careful, this life will be gone before we know it. And we're going to be before Jesus someday, and he's going to say, what did you do with the time that was given to you? And what we can do is we can just pile it on with so many things. Things that don't matter, things that are good. But when those things become our lives, when those things become musts or needs in our lives, then they become idols. And so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of talk about what does it look like for us to be able to live a life away from hurry. And so that's what this series is. And today we're going to talk about this concept of what's the best yes. And the best yes is something that I kind of was praying through. I was talking to a family who was in the hospital, and they just had tons of stuff just happening to them over the year. And they said, we kind of did this to ourselves. We overbooked. We did all of these things. And so this year, from now on, this is going to be the year of the no. We're going to say no to everything. And I was like, I don't know if you can do that. Like, I don't think, like, that's a thing. And I was like, and also it's kind of negative. So you don't want to just start the baseline with something negative, right? Like, so I was like, instead of saying a year of the no, why don't you just say this is going to be the year of the best yes? What is the best yes? What is the thing that if I say yes to this, well, really means I'm saying no to all these other things? And I can't bring all these things in. And so how do you determine what is the best yes? What are the things we need to be able to look at? And again, this is going to be kind of just like a real kind of just not an in-depth conversation, but it's going to be enough to have you learn, be informed in how you can apply some of these things to your lives. And so today we're going to talk about ways in which to be able to answer the best yes or say yes to the best yes is, number one, we need to be able to simplify our lives. So we need to be able to simplify. Simplify means not just continuing to add all of these things into our lives. And we live in a world in America where it says, hey, you need to have the best truck, you need to have the best house, you need to have the best whatever, you need to have all of these different things in order to be happy. You need to have all these things in order to be successful. Or if you want to make the most out of life, you need to be able to do everything. You only have one life to live, so let's just live it out and let's do all the things. And so you overpile all of the things in your life, and you don't have room for things that actually matter, that mean something. And so, like, there's some of us that our kids will play every single sport there is. Every single one. Like, if they offered cricket in Galesburg, your kid would play it. All right? Like, and that's because, like, I want them to do all of the things. And this was something that we struggled with as well. Like, and I'll talk a little bit about some of this here later on. But it's one of those things where it's like we have to do everything. I got to be a part of this committee. I got to be a part of this thing that's going on because all of these things are good, but you don't have time for them. And then when you don't have time, every area of your life starts to be rushed because you just continue to pile more and more things on. And so to be able to live simplistically, to simplify your life, what you have to do is you have to be able to say, hey, I don't have to say yes to all of these things. Or maybe these things are good, but right now is just not the time to be able to do it. And so I remember when I was in college, I loved playing baseball. Baseball was one of my absolute favorite sports. And in my freshman year, I got to play. We had the perfect season, lost every single game. But I had a blast. It was so much fun. It was a great time. But my sophomore year came around, and I was like, you know what? I don't know if I have time for this because I know what I came to school to be, and that's become a pastor. And I don't have this in my schedule to be able to do this, and so I have to say no. Even though that means I'm missing out on some really good bonding with my friends, playing a sport that I absolutely love, I just don't have time for it because that's not why I'm here. My junior year, I was able to kind of move things around, and I did get to play baseball that year, but I remember sophomore year saying, hey, I have to say no to this because I have to say yes to these things because these things have to be the main thing. So simplifying isn't just continuing to pile things on to build up your castle. To be able to live simplistically is being able to ask Jesus to be able to say, hey, how can I help further the kingdom with the things that you've given me? How can I further the kingdom with my time, talents, and resources? There's a passage in Luke 10 when this guy comes up to Jesus and they're having kind of this dispute about what to do with these funds and this land that they have. And then Jesus kind of tells them this parable about this guy that comes up to God and he says, what should I do? I've got a surplus of all of this farm, like crop and everything, so I don't know what to do with it. And God instantly is like, hey, you should give some of these things out to the poor. You should. There's people who are needing, there's people who are hurting that could benefit from your resources. Give them to them. But instead he says, nah, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to knock down my barn, and then I'm going to build a bigger barn, and then I'm going to fill that barn with all of my stuff. So then I'll be able to just take it easy. I'll be able to relax and enjoy what I have. And then God essentially looks at him and says, you're stupid. All right? He said, like, that's what he says, you fool. And the fool can be described as stupid. He's like, that was a dumb thing to do with your life. He's like, because there's people out there who are hurting. There's people out there that need someone like you, but you're just holding all these things in for yourself. You're living a life that is just for you, and you're neglecting everybody else. And so when we think about our lives, to simplify our lives, to be able to say, like, what are the stuff that I have that how can I be a blessing to other people? How can I help other people? What can I do? To not just have this mindset that it's all about me. And again, it's not bad to have stuff. I'm not saying that you need to be a minimalist. I'm not saying that you need to go and sell all of your things if Jesus tells you to, because he does tell another guy to go do all that, but that's for an idol type reason. But what he's saying is saying, hey, what's the most important thing in your life? Jesus says in Matthew 10, he says that whoever finds his life will lose it, whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. I fear that too much of our lives is built up finding our lives and our things, possessions, and people. And those are three things that won't go with us when we go to heaven. We're going to be before Jesus someday, and he says, what did you do with the time that I gave you? I had the dopest truck. Or I had, whatever. Like things that just don't matter. Again, God is a good Father, and he wants to bless us with different things, but are we able to be a blessing to other people? Are we so focused on growing our own castles that we neglect growing the kingdom? All right, and so we need to be able to simplify our lives. In order to say it's the best yes, to be able to say, God, you need to be the best yes in my life, so what does this look like for me with the way that you've blessed me, the things that I have, how can I then in return be a blessing to other people? The next thing we need to be able to do is we need to be able to realize what our priorities are. What gets the yes? So what is our main priority? I've got a list of some different things that I think should be main priorities in our lives, and I'm going to encourage you guys, in fact, challenge you guys to kind of make a priority list of your lives and to be able to see what is the most things that demand the most priority in our lives. Are we giving priority to them, or are they going to something else? And so there's three things I want to talk about, and they're in an order that's specific for a reason. The first one is God. God needs to be 100% the best yes. He needs to be our highest priority. Because it is through him that relationships work. It is through him that we have life. And there's a plan and a purpose that God has created us for us to be able to step into. I remember I was talking to somebody at a camp once, and they came up to me, and they were crying. They're like, I just feel so far away from God. I wish that I was closer to him. And I was like, all right, let's sit down and talk about it. And I was like, what church do you go to? She's like, I don't really go to church. And I was like, okay. And I was like, okay, well, when you read your Bible, like, what book of the Bible are you in right now? She's like, I don't really read my Bible either. It's like, okay, I'm starting to see a trend of why maybe you don't feel close to God, but let's ask this next one. I was like, so what's your prayer life like? She's like, I don't really pray. I was like, you know who God is, right? What are you looking for? And I was like, so if you're not doing anything, then how do you expect to have anything in the relationship? One of my favorite things in the world are junior high relationships. If there's any junior hires in here that are in a relationship, I'm sorry, I'm about to throw some shade on you. But it's those moments like when the junior hire's like, I'm in love with this person, and then they go on a date and then they don't even look at each other. Right? Those are the best. They're so funny. Where they're holding hands and they're all sweaty and stuff, and then they're just their backs are to each other. And then I was like, what are you even doing? You're just saying it for the sake of having a girlfriend. That's what you're doing. And it's nothing. And that's what if we're not careful, that's what can happen with our relationship with Jesus. We can say, absolutely, I'm a Christian. What does it look like? What does your life with Christ look like? Is he a priority? And you can tell if he's a priority on your social media. You can tell that he's a priority with how you look and talk and treat people. It's a telling sign that he's a priority for you when people can see him in you. When you don't even have to talk about Jesus, but there's a presence about you. Is Jesus the highest priority in our lives? For me, I know the only time, because he is a priority in my life, the only time that I can have my one-on-one time with him is at 5 in the morning. Because that's when everybody should be asleep in my house. And that is when I'm able to go and to spend time with him, and that's it. And so because that's a priority, that means that I can't stay up till 1, 2, 3 in the morning. That I have to go to bed at a good time. And so for me, my cutoff is 11:30. If I was like, I'll try to go to bed earlier, but if it gets past 11:30, whatever I'm working on, whatever it is done. Because I know how much that means to me. And I wish that I was better, that I wish you would think Andrew is so holy. I'm not. And it's something that I know that is missing in my life sometimes, and that's something that I'm constantly trying to rearrange my schedule, trying to figure things out, to know that if this isn't the priority, then it's going to affect everything else. My wife knows when I've spent time with Jesus. My kids know when I've spent time with Jesus because I'm able to look more and more like them. If you ask my kids who I love more, they'll say, Dad, which kid's your favorite? Who is your favorite? And I was like, I don't have favorites. There's definitely some that I like more than others at the moment, but like I never will tell you that I love either of them anymore. You know, like, and I was like, because I love them all the same, but for sure some of them are higher on my favorite list at the moment. But I love them all the same. But then I'll tell them, and then they'll ask me, they're like who you love more, me or God? And I was like, 100% God. And then they'll be able to say, and the reason why my dad loves God is because I always tell them this. I was like, if I love God more than I love you, that helps me love you better. You drawing closer to Jesus will make you a better husband, a better wife, a better parent, a better friend, a better coworker, a better boss. Is Jesus a priority in your life? Because here's the thing, you're his highest priority. Enough to die on a cross, to give his life so that you can have one. And so priorities, God has to be at the top of it. The second one might surprise you, but it's health. Your health. This is your body, the only one that you have. You will never get another one. All right, this is it. Are we good stewards of our body? The other day I was telling Sarah, I was like, I don't feel good. And then her face looked at me as if she was about to go put a hazmat suit on because she absolutely hates it if anybody's like sick in the house. I was like, no, not that kind of sick. And I was like, I haven't, I haven't been working out a bunch. I eat whatever I want. It's Halloween Oreo season, and I've already polished off a bag. And so I was like, I don't do the things I want. I eat absolutely what I want, and that just makes me feel lousy. And I was like, I don't feel good. And so I used to be in a good rhythm, a good routine, and it's so hard working out because it's like it just takes time and time to get back into it, but it's so easy to fall off. And so then I've just started. I was like, I need you to help me to keep me accountable for this, and just and encourage me and all those things. But even if she doesn't, I still need to be able to do it because this is a priority for me. And so to be able to take care of the body that I have is so important because, again, this is the only one that we have. He's not going to give us another one. This is it. And so how are we being good stewards of our bodies? And that also means like what we're putting into it. Like one of my favorite breakfast foods is pizza from the night before. Like I love eating cold pizza, and there's times I will eat it, and Sarah will just look at me and she says, there's people in this house that depend on you, right? And I was like, I know. And I was like, I'm not having a glass of Pepsi with it like you saw earlier. But yeah, it's just those things where I'm like, okay, I need to be smart about this. I need to be more conscious about this because, again, I need to be a good steward of this. And then it goes to other forms of health too. Are you doing things that are dangerous to your body? Are you doing things that God wouldn't want you to be doing? Are you thinking things that God wouldn't want you to be thinking about yourself? Are you allowing the negative self-talk to continue to get in there instead of just saying, nope, I'm a beloved son and daughter of Jesus Christ? And I'm going to allow these things to fall away. And what ends up happening with hurry and rushedness, it comes anxiety and eagerness. All of things that Jesus doesn't want us to be experiencing. And when we start doing harmful things to our bodies, it's so sad to him. I had the honor this last week to go to a dinner for somebody that is celebrating 6 years of being sober. And it was awesome. And we just kind of sat around the table and we were laughing and we were joking. And then we just kind of started talking about like, man, how crazy was it 6 years ago? How crazy was it 6 years ago when all like everything was absolutely at its worst? And to be able to see now where this person is. And something she said, one, just thank you guys for never giving up on me. But the thing I had to realize is I had to make this for myself. It wasn't how much you guys wanted it for me. It was I needed to decide this is something I needed to do. And that's the thing that we need to be able to think about as well, is we have to be able to say, like, you know what, no, I'm not just going to be a person that's going to be a person that works out or takes care of my body someday. No, I'm going to be committed to this. This is who I am. This is the body that God's given me, and I want to be a good steward of it. And if only there was a place where we could go to work out or something. If anybody knows of anything, let us know. But again, this is something that is important. And then the third thing I want to talk about are relationships. And you might say, well, shouldn't it go God, relationships, health? You're not good to anybody if you're dead, all right? So take care of yourself. So that's why health is number 2. Health is number 2 because there are people that depend on us. There are people that do rely on us. There are people that God has put in our lives to lead to Jesus. And so often we can just fill our lives with things that are just about ourselves, that we don't make time for people. And this was one thing that was convicting to me and Sarah. Like, again, my kids love sports. I love sports. I loved playing baseball, but I told you last week I just turned 35, which means my body is shutting down, all right? And so I can't keep doing the things that I'm doing. Right? Well, people, that's right. But I love watching my kids play sports. And so, like, I love doing them. And then the years in the past, they did them all. We were that family that said, you can do everything. If you want to do it, you can play this and all those things. And then we played soccer. And my kids were okay with soccer, but it was one of the things, like, all of our friends are doing and everybody else is doing soccer. Let's just do soccer, so let's just play soccer. And I ended up being a coach. And I was like, I don't know anything about soccer, like, at all. Like, but I'm the one who's, like, teaching them how to do things. And so, like, it was just one of those things where, like, they were kind of, yeah, this is fun, we'll do this. But then when this year came rolling around, like, my son loves baseball and basketball, and right in the middle would be soccer. And I remember me and Sarah just kind of said, you know what, no, we want to help make people a priority this year. And so often 3 nights a week we're towards soccer, and my kids are just kind of about soccer. You don't have to do everything. If that means it's compromising, investing in people, investing in who God's led you to pour into. And so that was one thing that we had to make that decision. We had to make that decision, and again, that doesn't have to be your decision. But that's one thing for us. We said we can't love people and continue to do these things all at the same time. There's just not enough margin in the time. And so we had to make that sacrifice. And it was a good thing. And there was and just being able to, so those are those things. God has put people in our lives. And again, that goes back to following Jesus. Is Jesus the most important person, so that I can then demonstrate the love of Jesus? There's 3 things there's 3 L's that I try to look for with my relationship with Sarah. Does she feel loved? Does she feel led? And do I still make her laugh? My biggest fear in the world is the day that she doesn't think I'm funny anymore. And I would tell her a joke, and I was like, "Did you hear it?" And she said, "I did." And I was like, "It's happening!" Like, I was like, "This is the worst." But it's those moments where I'll do an inventory with her. I'll say, "Hey, how am I doing?" Not like stand up. Like, is this an audience or an oil painting? Like, that's not what I do. Like, I say, like, "Hey, how am I? Do you feel loved? Like, do you feel like I have time for you? Do you feel like the same guy you see on Sunday is the same guy you see Monday through Saturday? Do you see the same person? Do you feel loved? Do you feel led?" There's times and there's seasons in my life where there's definitely those moments where we heard God so clearly and we would go do really difficult things. Sometimes it's just kind of a lull type moment and everything. I was like, "Do you still feel like I'm leading you? Do you feel like you're growing closer to Jesus because of me? And how I can help you with this?" And then she still thinks I'm funny, which is good. But ask your spouse that. Ask your spouse, but then also have the humility to be able to hear those moments when they say, "No, you're not. I don't feel loved by you. All these other things kind of seem like they get your attention. And I don't feel like there's been time for me." There's been those moments. I remember there's been moments where if I got opportunities to speak at a conference or I got opportunity to speak at retreats, I would jump on them. And then just this last, just a couple weeks ago, I got invited to do kind of a back-to-back weekend type thing. Like, so there's one happening here and one happening here. And I asked Sarah, I was like, "Do you think this would be something that I could do?" She's like, "That's going to be a really busy season. That's going to be a lot if you feel like God's leading you to it. But I think that, you should really pray about, is that something that you have time for?" And I spent time for it. I spent praying for it, and I don't have time for it. So I ended up having to choose one of them, even though the other one was really, really good too, and I really wanted to do it. To be able to look and to see, like, nope, family is a priority. God is a priority. People are a priority, and I can't do both and effectively serve them the same. So you have to be able to look at, how are you treating people? And then the last thing that I wanted to kind of leave us with is to be committed to it. Be committed to loving people. Be committed to loving Jesus. Be committed to desiring to get better yourself. If you fall down, just get right back up. Put people in your life that are going to help you. Like, this is one of those things that I'm going to encourage you spouses to do, just to sit down write down, hey, what are some priorities in our lives? What do we want to be known for? And are we doing that? Does our calendar reflect something like that? Is Jesus the Lord over our calendar? Is Jesus the Lord over our desires? Is he the Lord over what we're doing? And do that together. And again, I'm not saying you can't go have fun. I'm not saying you can't go on vacation, but how do you invite Jesus into it, like James is talking about? Don't plan all these things without ever asking, God, is this cool if we do this? Or Jesus, what do you want to see happen here? Or God, would you be able to work in and through me wherever we go, whatever we're doing? I'm going to be committed. The best yes needs to stay yes. But there are times, so one of the best yeses for us, and we're going to talk about this in this series, is our Sabbath. Me and Sarah have Sabbath on Fridays. We got a phone call from a family that said that they're in the hospital and they really need some prayer, and it fell on my Sabbath. And I didn't say to that person, sucks to suck, maybe don't get sick on my Sabbath. Like, I didn't say that. I'll see you tomorrow, No. Me and Sarah, we shifted things because this was a priority. People were a priority. And we're like, hey, we're going to go help them. We're going to pray with these people. And we'll talk more about Sabbath type stuff later, okay? But you need to be able to stay committed to what you're aiming for. And it has to be this idea that if there's air in our lungs, you guys, if we wake up every day breathing, start that day with saying thank you. Thank you that I have another day. God, what do you want to do today? What should we do today? How do you want to partner with me to disrupt what the enemy's doing and to continue to build up the kingdom with what you're doing in Galesburg or Knoxville or Abingdon or Monmouth? There is such a plan and purpose for your life. We have to stop making excuses that there's too much stuff going on in our lives, or we don't have what it takes. I'll end with this. I went and visited a lady that comes to our church, but she hasn't been able to come a little bit over a year. And I go and see her sometimes, and I went and sat down, and she told me that she just got diagnosed with full-blown dementia. And I asked her how she was doing. And with tears in her eyes, she says, when I first heard it was terrible. She's like, and I'm still not happy about it. And she's like, but then it got to the point where I had to say, all right, what next? And she says, and I go to the doctor on Wednesdays, and there's like kind of this group that kind of helps with stuff, and there's a bunch of people that are there, and what I noticed is that all these people were really sad and really emotional and really depressed, and so she's like, but I still have the love of Jesus living inside of me, and so what I've been doing is I've been going and sitting with them and helping them with their memory work, but then also telling them about the love that Jesus has for them and how good he is even in the midst of all these bad things. And she says, and Wednesdays are my absolute favorite day because she's got air in her lungs. Even though it's a situation that she's not looking for, she says, I can still lead people to Jesus because that's a priority for me. Because I'm a priority for him. I want to be a priority. I want to make people a priority no matter what my situation is. And so I tell that story for us to be able to know that I don't think in this room that anybody has a better excuse than dementia not to be doing what Jesus has called us to do. And she still is living each and every day. Every day it's starting to go a little more. But she says, while I'm still here, I want to lead people to him because it matters to me. Choosing Jesus is our best yes. And so instead of living a life without him, how do we live a life from him? Because if he's been so good to you, better believe he can be so good to others. Would you pray with me? God, we thank you so much for this love that you have for us. I thank you for who you've called us to be. I thank you for the resources and the giftings that you've given us, the blessings that you've blessed us with, and I pray, Jesus, that we are able to be a blessing to others. Thank you so much, Father, for this love that you have for us. Help us to have you be our highest priority. I pray that you would help us to be good stewards of our bodies. To be able to know that this is that you've given us these bodies with air in our lungs to be able to breathe so that we can then go and make relationships with people, leading them in a growing relationship with you. And every day until the very last day, help that to be our mission, to lead people in a growing relationship with you, Jesus. We love you, we praise you, and we pray this in your precious and holy name. And God's people said, amen, amen. I'm going to invite you to stand. I got 2 challenges for you. All right, 2. 1, invite God into this season of life. Every season's a busy season. You know, I think that's something we can kind of get very used to saying, like, oh, it's a busy season. It's a busy season. It's never going to not be a busy season, all right? So invite God into it. Invite God into this season that you find yourself in right now. And then the second thing is I want you to pray through what your priorities are. What are the priorities in your life? Do this with your families. Do this with your friends. Do this with your small groups. What are the priorities in your life, and how can you set yourself up best to be able to answer the best yes?